Hey guys, it's Ornlu, and low key, we just had a huge bit of information dropped, and that is that AoE2 is going to be getting a massive naval rework. So anything that has to do with the dock is getting a major overhaul, what looks to be early next year. Now, this is for the upcoming Thalassocracy Cup, which is like a water centric tournament, and they are going to be using the new water balance. Now, the players of this tournament and the casters, which include myself, have access to a patch that has all of these new naval changes to showcase. But they did say that it is not for the general public as of yet. I'm sure that you guys will get access to it, sometime within the next few months. But as these changes are going to be implemented into the game and they are going to be a big, big deal, I thought that it would be still a very good idea to use this access to cover all these changes for you, to showcase what they mean, what they look like, and test out some of the new stuff that we're going to be getting. So definitely leave a like if you enjoy this, and of course subscribe and all that stuff if you find all of this interesting. But definitely let me know what you think of these changes, because there are so many of them that I don't even know what to think yet. So with that, let's just roll right into the post. So this is just some PDF file that was like on the Discord server for Thalassocracy Cup. Developer note: this tournament includes a preview of upcoming changes to naval combat in AoE2 DE. It includes new ships, new technologies, and new gameplay features. This kind of early look isn't something we do often, and we're excited to give you the first look at the improvements coming your way next year. We wish the best of luck to all of the tournament's competing players, and keep an eye out for patch notes as updates roll around to catch when these changes are going live. Please note, while these features have been tested, they should still be considered a work in progress and not the final product. And of course, Chronicles is going to keep its own distinct thing. So, what are these changes, you might ask? So there is a very long list of changes here, and I am just going to try and go through all of them, one at a time, just because there is so much going on. So, design changes. A new ship line has been added, the Hulk, which counters fire ships and is countered by the galley line. Ship stats have been modified across the board. Relationships and roles are largely similar to before. The second page at the dock has been removed and the locations of many upgrades and ships adjusted. And I think this was something that T90 was complaining about a lot for years. And then new naval technologies have been introduced and existing naval technologies have been updated. So, units. Ship statistics have been revamped to no longer rely on arcane calculations of different attack and armor bonuses and have been greatly simplified. So what this means, and I went through and I took screenshots to compare the old stats versus the new stats. Basically, every ship in the game now has different stats. Now, most of the relationships are going to remain the same, and I'm not going to go through and show you every single stat change because, again, the end result is supposed to be fairly similar. There are some exceptions, though, and I'm going to do my best to cover those for you. Ship combat now only uses either pierce damage, which is galleys and equivalent unique ships, or melee damage, which is the fire ship, demolition ship, Hulk, and cannon galleons, and a single case of attack bonus, which is the long-range ship class. And we'll go through this in depth in a little bit, but basically this is anything that has longer range than a fire ship. So it's every single warship except fire ships and demo ships and hulks. And not all statistics change are reflected here, as ship relationships between one another are kept broadly unchanged. So, new ship line. Hulks, war hulks, and Carracks. It's all the same unit line. Short-range ship attacks with ropes and hooks to mimic boarding. Counters fire ships weak to galleys, which is the same profile as demolition ships had previously. They benefit from melee attack upgrades, so they benefit from forging, iron casting, and blast furnace. And they are upgraded alongside fire ships and galleys. So the same streamlined upgrade path as all the other ships. Demolition ships have been reduced to fit a more situational role. They're upgraded as a single line and are no longer available to civilizations with a unique ship, so Vikings, Portuguese, and Koreans. Fishing ships can garrison into docks, and the fish trap queue is on the fishing ship itself, and they receive the ship armor class. This, I think the fishing ship armor class, which existed previously, I think is basically redundant now because it only existed for fire galleys. I believe that was really the only difference. So galleys receive the long-range ship armor class. They gain bonus damage against other long-range ships, and they lose bonus damage against all ships, which basically means you lose bonus damage against demos and fire ships and the hulks. And then fire ships also get bonus damage against long-range ships, lose bonus damage against existing ships, and damage type change to melee. Now, fire ships used to have kind of a weird distinction where you dealt some melee damage and some pierce damage. So I'm sure they are just heavily simplifying everything. And the Cannon Galleon and equivalents, which would be the Lochuan and Drummond, all receive the long-range ship armor class. This also includes longboats, actually all of the unique ships. So longboats, caravels, Therosadai, turtle ships, all have the armor class of long-range ships. Raid Cog have 5 different options. Now, if you play Chronicles, this will be familiar to you. And you can basically set up the percentages of wood and gold that you get from trading with Trade Cog. So you can either have it all gold, all wood, or in between. I'll show you guys that in a second. Buildings, docks. Docks can now garrison fishing ships. So that used to be a Gurjara's bonus exclusively. Now it's going to be available to every civ, and I think Gurjara's can garrison up to 10 fishing ships as their own unique civ bonus. Garrison docks now shoot arrows like garrison town centers, and they have 6 range and cannot be increased by ranged upgrades. There'll be some interesting tests to do with this that we'll do in just a second. Technologies. Careening and dry dock have been moved to the university. Dry dock effect changed from ships move 15% faster to ships +1 pierce armor, which is the same as careening. So basically, careening gives you +1 pierce armor, and so does dry dock. Careening has had its cost adjusted, as has dry dock to be more gold heavy and less food heavy. Shipwright also moved to the university. Its effect is the same. Gill nets. Effect changed from gather 15% faster to gather 10% faster and carry +5. And the cost was reduced. Now, there was another technology added, as we'll get to in a second, which is basically just Gill nets 1.0, and it has the exact same effect, and is available in the feudal age. Now, I think the extra carry capacity aspect is really interesting because it helps a lot when you're using ships, fishing ships, gathering in the ocean, where, especially as you deplete the fish closer to the dock, you'll have to sail further and further away to get those juicy fish. That'll help a lot with the carry capacity. What it doesn't help is fish booming on those tiny ponds with, 10 fish traps around a single dock, like you see in Black Forest. That is actually going to be worse because you're getting your food income more slowly than you used to, right? It's a longer period between food drop-offs, if that makes sense. So that is kind of an interesting aspect of the bonus. It's like with the Dravidian bonus before, where they're actually one of the not as good fish booming civs because you just didn't get your food as quickly. Because extra carry capacity doesn't matter when the fishing ships are literally adjacent to the dock. War Galley and Galleon. So those upgrades have been renamed to the more clear medium warships and heavy warships. Here are the icons for it. Basically, it didn't make sense that the War Galley upgrade just upgraded... the War Galley upgrade upgraded all of the ships, but then the Galleon upgrade only upgraded War Galleys. So now all the warships, galleys, fires, and hulks, all are upgraded together. Note that demolition ships are an exception. And they're also much cheaper, 230 food, 100 gold, to 150 wood and 100 gold. And heavy warships literally didn't exist in the game before, so you guys can now know that it's 400 wood, 315 food, to 400 wood, 315 gold. I think that they're referring to Galleon there. So, heavy demolition ship also had its cost increased from 200 to 250 and 300 to 350, so 50 more of wood and gold. Fishing lines I already talked about, and now you have Carvel hull and clinker construction. These are available at the university, and they replace the old dry dock effect. So dry dock used to be all ships gain plus 15% movement speed. Now it's kind of broken up into you can gain 10% faster in Castle Age and 10% faster more in Imperial Age. So you can get a maximum of 20% faster movement speed for your ships if you have both upgrades. Now the thing is, not all civs have access to all of the upgrades. They are available to some civilizations and not others, like most techs in the game. It's kind of interesting, and I'm not going to go through every single civilization and show you who gets what exactly, but it is another way that they can sort of fine-tune the balance for civilizations on the water. Then we have more university upgrades, which are available at the university. Siphons, 100 food, 175 gold. Fire ships gain an explosive charge attack, and we'll have to go ahead and test out to see what those do. And then in an Imperial Age, you have incendiaries, which is 200 food, 325 gold, which is fire ships detonate when sunk, dealing damage around them, which is very reminiscent of one of the effects of thunderclap bombs for the Jurchens. And then we have the demolition ship, which basically just has its own Castle Age version. Remember that these guys are upgraded separately from all of the other warships. Also, and again, we'll get into this in just a moment, but demolition ships are also much more expensive and also a little bit weaker. So, civilization-specific changes. Vikings now have access to fire ships. This is huge. Actually, what I want to test, just because it makes sense to check this out right now, do they actually have all the way up to fast fire ships? They do not. Okay, so they at least have fire ships and fire galleys to get you through the early game, but you're still not going to be relying on the fast fire ships in the late game, and now you don't get demolition ships at all. That role is still largely replaced by the Hulk, which again, we'll test out in just a moment, but it is something to consider. This guy's alone is going to make Vikings a top-tier hybrid civ. Like, this change is huge for Vikings, and all of the hybrid maps that we see all over the place in tournaments are going to now feature Vikings a lot, because they were basically non-competitive when on maps where you had to go for fire galleys, and now they're going to be able to do that. So yeah, no more demolition ships. It's not great, but again, the Hulk is the more consistent replacement for the demolition ship line in the first place, and then the ship discount was nerfed slightly to help compensate for the fact that they are getting fire galleys, so instead of 15, 15, 20, it is 10 Feudal Age, 15 Castle Age, and 20% in the Imperial Age. Japanese fishing ship bonus changed from plus 100% HP and plus 2 Pierce Armor to just plus 100% HP. This is probably not going to make too big of a difference because ships across the board have had their Pierce Armor reduced. So I actually don't think this is going to change too much when it comes to the Japanese fishing ships getting attacked by other ships. However, it does matter a lot when it comes to fishing ships getting attacked by land units. So archers and whatnot are going to actually be dealing more damage to fishing ships, Japanese fishing ships specifically. Portuguese lose access to the demolition raft line because they have caravels, which I guess means that they can't get demolition ships. It's kind of weird because caravels and longboats they have a completely different role than demolition ships, but I guess that is the trade-off that the devs went for. The ship bonus was changed to be more powerful throughout the game, so instead of a flat 10%, it is 10, 15, 20 in Feudal, Castle, and Imperial Age. And then they had their Carrack unique technology removed, which was ships gaining +1 melee and +1 Pierce Armor, as that's actually been replaced by a generic tech, basically. I mean, you do end up losing 1 melee armor, but that doesn't really matter anymore for the ships. Moral of the story is Carrack was basically kind of a redundant technology at this point. So now you have circumnavigation, 250 food, and 150 wood, and it sets the entire map to explored. So basically, like you type in the Marco cheat. So it's not like you can, get spies on everything, but the entire layout of the map will be visible to you. And then ships train 33% faster. That is actually a very powerful bonus, and Portuguese are already one of the best post-imp naval civs, and this is just going to further exemplify that because you get the faster train speed of Shipwright, which Portuguese did not have Shipwright, and they do not have Shipwright now, but you get essentially an even better production speed bonus than Shipwright gives you via unique tech, which is also much cheaper than Shipwright, because Shipwright's 1,000 food, 300 gold. This is obviously much cheaper. Yeah, Portuguese, this is like, they went from being a top-tier late-game naval civ to being an even topper-tier late-game naval civ. Gujaras, yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier. So Gujaras used to be the only civilization that could garrison fishing ships inside docks. Now, docks can garrison +5 fishing ships, 4 +10 in total. Italians did have their cheaper dock and university tech bonus reduced by 8%. Italians are already still very good on water and hybrid maps. I don't think this is going to matter too much, but considering how many more technologies are available at the university that impact ships, I think that this is very reasonable. And then the woo bonus of careening and dry dock, available 1 age earlier to careening and dry dock, are free. So basically, you get 1 extra Pierce Armor for your ships in Feudal Age and 1 extra Pierce Armor for your ships in Castle Age. Or, sorry. Yeah, they're still available 1 age earlier. Yeah. Also, and finally, this is kind of funny, Aztecs, Cumans, Incas, and Mayans all get cannon galleons. Does it make sense? No. But, and this is just my conjecture, I think that we will be seeing unique ships. I really do think that the next DLC is likely going to be South America, or Mesoamerica, one of those places, and is going to be focused on the American civs, basically, and I think they'll probably get a unique ship there. This is one of those function is greater than form moments, and I think that, Give them a siege ship. It makes them not unplayable in the late game on water. It's fine. It's not a big deal, guys. I think it's probably a short-term fix. So that is the changelog. There's obviously so much to go through here, and I am going to do my best to give you guys a thorough overview without getting too bogged down in the weeds, as I am wont to do. So let's get right into this. Alrighty, guys, I am in the scenario editor. Remember that I have access to this patch, and so do the players of Thalassocracy Cup and the other casters, but this is not available to the general public yet. However, these changes will eventually be implemented into the regular game. Interestingly, and this is just a random tidbit, no civilization has a complete dock or naval tech tree anymore. Dravidians are the closest, for what it's worth, in that they have everything except siege engineers for their cannon galleons, so that's why I'm using them here as sort of the default civ. But it's just kind of a fun thing that's worth noting. Let's start with the civilian ships. Fishing ships are now much weaker against land units. So I'll put the side-by-side stats on the screen for you now, but you can see that they have 10 less HP, 1 more melee armor, but 3 less pierce armor, and then the same movement speed. So in general, less HP and less melee armor, less pierce armor, is going to make them much more vulnerable to land ranged units. But as we'll see with like the ship bonus damage changes, it's not really going to matter too much versus fire ships and galleys. The big thing here is that they are going to be much weaker against land units, which is very relevant because there are so many maps, both in the ladder and tournaments, where you have fishing ships exposed to land units. Transport ships are going to be a similar story. You can see they now have 30 less HP, so down from 100, now 70. 0-2 armor instead of 4-8 armor, making them significantly more vulnerable to land units than previously, and towers and whatnot. So that's something that is definitely, you need to keep that in mind. Other than that, I mean, the carry capacity is still 20 for every civ from Dark Age and 1.45 movement speed. But yeah, I do think it's very interesting that transport ships are now going to be much, much easier to snipe for literally everything that isn't basically enemy fire ships or galleons. But like everything else in the game is going to be much easier to snipe. Funnily enough, the stats of the trade cog are completely unchanged. So you'd think that it would also be made weaker versus land units and buildings, but, you know, basically the same against Navy. Nope, it is exactly the same as it used to be, but we still have the new whole system here where you can go, okay, we're going to generate exclusively gold from a dock versus 75-25, 50-50. This is actually a typo. It is actually 75% wood and 25% gold, and then 100% wood and 0% gold. Now, notably, there is an enemy dock around here somewhere that I put. All right, here we are. So you can see that it's on generate exclusively gold, and it's going to give me 10 gold. If I switch over to a different percentage, it's not going to change it like mid-trip. Also worth mentioning is that this setting is going to be the same for all of your ships. You can't have it like specific to individual trade cogs. So it's just going to be one setting that you can click on a trade cog, and that is going to be a consistent effect for all of your trade cogs. You can see now we're on, what, 75-25, so we should be getting, 8 and 3, just round the numbers there. And so in late game, obviously wood and gold are your naval resources, and you can balance out how exactly you want to be getting the distribution of how you want to get your resources from your trade cogs. So that is something that was introduced in Chronicles and is now being added to the regular game. All right, the last thing to test is the docks themselves. So you can see 5 garrison space, and your fishing ships can jump in. Now, do the docks attack without anything garrisoned? Anyway, I assume that, okay, you can get 5 fishing ships garrisoned. That gives you 5 extra arrows. Do docks attack ships otherwise? Because 3 attack, very, very low. 6 range, also low. 3 reload time is 50% slower than a regular tower, so it's not like the stats are all that great. But yes, you can see that there is no attack from the docks if there is nothing garrisoned. However, let's go ahead and shift this over. Can I not? What? Why is this bugged? Okay, this is annoying. I'm not able to train. Just kidding. I'm an idiot and forgot to give them pop space to be able to actually train any units. All right, so let's switch over to the red player here. Yeah, look at this, guys. You got to be careful. So even with a full dock garrisoned, it's not like it's all that much damage. You're still going to want towers and whatnot, but it is still going to be an important way to protect your ships in the early game. Okay, that's interesting. The other thing I want to know is what upgrades benefit regular docks. So you do not get extra range from fletching. It's like town centers. So you get the extra attack, but not the extra range. So yeah, you get all the regular attack upgrades. Heated shot does give you more attack versus ships. That does beg the question, and I know I'm meandering a little bit here, but hey man, I love to test stuff. We need to check Melee and Gurjaras. Gurjaras, I want to see if you get more arrows for your fishing ships in the same way that you do like with Teutons and extra towers. No, you don't. Oh, no dock rushing with Gurjaras to get a gajillion arrows. It cap out at 5. Boring. Oh, rip. All right, and let's see the difference now with harbors. All right, so 3 attack, 2 damage versus ships. And remember, I forgot if I mentioned this. The docks get a lot of bonus damage from heated shots. So you go from 2 damage versus ships to 6 damage, I believe. Yeah, that's very significant. All right, now for harbors, you get extra arrows. The same general attacks stats are the exact same, as is the reload time. 7 range. Okay, so harbors are affected by ranged upgrades, whereas regular docks are not. Also, they have 10 garrison space. And they are... Okay, so the harbors are going to be like the old Teuton Death Stars. Okay, I need to check this out. How good are they? I mean, all these changes are going to be very interesting for sure. Oh my goodness. How much are they going to nuke our ships? Holy cow! Okay. I mean, I know these are feudal age galleys, but I think harbors are going to be a lot better now, especially if you can just garrison them full of fishing ships. That's really interesting. The last thing to test with docks is it's just 5 garrison space total. What? Okay. This is weird. It says you can garrison 5 units, but if you set the gather point on the building itself, like before, you can still garrison 10 units. Okay, that is kind of confusing. But yeah, the garrison space isn't changed when it comes to setting the gather point on the building itself. All right. Good to know. Alrighty, moving on to the other warships. You can see galleys. They still resemble the similar galleys. They have less pierce armor, less HP than before, but the whole bonus damage and the way that works out is going to make things very similar. Fire galleys going to be kind of a similar deal, and they only deal melee damage now and not melee and pierce damage. Demo ships, look at this, guys. More expensive than a regular ship. That's 70 wood and 80 gold. They used to be 70 wood and 50 gold, as all of the warships cost the same amount of resources, at least the regular triangle. Now, demo rafts are very expensive, and they deal much less melee damage. So, stats are going to be on screen here, the comparison, and you can see that demo rafts have 5 less HP, and, 25 less attack? And this is just a straight-up nerf, so demo rafts both more expensive and weaker. However, the new ship, the Hulk. So you can see here that Hulks cost 75 wood and 35 gold. This actually makes them cheaper overall than the other warships, which is kind of interesting, at least in terms of total resources spent. So the same wood cost as a fire galley, but 10 less gold cost. This is what they look like in the feudal age, and you can see that they actually have -3 attack versus buildings. They have a range of 1, like a Step Lancer or a Kameyuk, or 1 armor, 1.5 movement speed, so they are faster than both galleys and fire galleys. Actually, galleys and fire galleys now have the same movement speed. Oh, I just noticed that. Fire galleys used to have 1.3, now they're 1.43. Still, Hulks are going to be the fastest. And what does their attack look like? Whoa! Okay, this is kind of goofy looking. Go get him! Huh. Interesting. But yeah, pretty fast attack speed as well. Alright, let's test these guys in combat. So here we have 10 Hulks and 10 Fire Galleys. Note that, again, a lot of melee armor. These are supposed to be good against Fire Galleys. Okay, they're good. They're not, like, crushingly good, but they are good. And know that you can upgrade their attack at the blacksmith, so you can see we get forging, and then it'll be getting extra attack. All right, now to try them versus galleys. Remember, hulks are faster than galleys, so it's not going to be like the easiest thing in the world to shoot and scoot with them. But just in terms of raw, you know, how do they perform in combat? Let's see here. I mean, they kill the galleys fast. Okay, so you definitely need to micro with galleys. Again, galleys are supposed to counter hulks. Okay, let's try with micro. Okay, what is this pathfinding? Oh, wait, do they slow down the ships? Oh, I think they do. Oh, that makes it really annoying to micro against. Okay, why are the hulks just crushing us? You can't even micro versus them properly. Okay, maybe I'm missing something, but yeah, those hooks absolutely lock you in place. Okay, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to see how this plays out in more practice, but yeah, obviously the hulks are very good in Feudal Age. Alrighty, Castle Age coming in. So you can see that you have the just general upgrade now to upgrade all of your Feudal Age warships. So we get one of each flavor, and then we a demo raft as well. We hit this button, and everything except the demo raft is upgraded because that requires its own technology. And actually, just to start with the demolition ship. So again, side-by-side comparison here, you can see that demo ships have 10 less HP than they used to, and 30 less attack. Now, they still have the same bonus damage versus buildings. They also have 1 melee armor, 0 pierce armor instead of 3 pierce armor, and 0 melee armor. So demo ships, again, more expensive and weaker than they used to be. Ah, this is interesting, guys. So when it comes to war galleys and fire ships, again, the stats look pretty similar, just tweaked around a little bit to utilize their new bonus damage mechanic. But now fire ships are faster than war galleys. So now it's going to be much more difficult to micro against fire ships with your war galleys, as they are, well, slower than them now, as opposed to the 1.35 movement speed from before. So yeah, basically fire ships are 0.2 tiles a second faster now. That's wild. Hulks, meanwhile, they attack even faster in Castle Age, notably. And again, you just have your general stat increase. Oh yeah, guys, look at this. The sails are moving in the wind. They didn't used to do that, I'm pretty sure. Look at that. The sails are, like, moving around a little bit, I think. Yeah, see, the sails were moving right there. That's a nice little touch they added. All right, again, just to double check to make sure that the interactions are consistent throughout the ages, we'll go ahead and test the Castle Age ships here. I did forget to mention, I think, Warhulks have there's no civ with a bonus to Warhulks explicitly. So they will benefit from any general naval bonuses, like Viking Warhulks are cheaper. Korean ones, Portuguese ones are. But there is nothing that's like, oh, Warhulks attack faster or whatever. At least not yet. All right, let's see how they do. Well, again, they win, but they don't win by that big a margin. They're efficient, for sure. Although fire ships are faster than the Warhulks are. So again, you can see 1.55 movement speed versus 1.5. So fire ships are actually able to escape from the Warhulks in Castle Age, whereas they are not able to do that in Feudal Age. All right, so war galleys. Again, we're just going to go ahead and test this out. With micro, mind you. I mean, I know it's Ornlu micro, so it leaves much to be desired. But yeah, the whole trapping aspect of the hulks feels like it kind of makes them counter war galleys too. And remember, hulks are faster than war galleys. Yeah, a little concerned about that. Now, they do have to get to very close range, right? So they're not going to be able to fight underneath towers and whatnot very effectively at all. But yeah, unless there's something I'm not getting, more hulks feel like they counter everything. One other thing to mention, since we were in the Castle Age, is that All of the unique ships are basically the same as they were in the previous patch, with the exception of the longboat, which was adjusted a little bit, so that all of their arrows do the same amount of damage. So you can see that 5 attack, but all of those arrows are dealing the same amount of damage. I'm pretty sure. That's what it looks like, at least. But yeah, other than that, that is basically all of the unique warships are the same. All right, the Imperial Age. Of course, we have, again, the the elite upgrades, 400 wood, 315 gold. Gets you all of your Imperial Age warships, and then the demo line is separate. And for one last time, side-by-side comparison with the demolition ships, you can see they now have 45 less damage. The HP is the same, whereas it was less in the earlier ages, and then the armor is different. Also, they have a smaller blast radius. So still, demo ships more expensive, and you're getting less out of them. As for the regular warships, fast fire ships are now 1.65 movement speed, so they are way faster than galleons. Again, they used to have, with fast fire ship, 1.43 movement speed, the same as galleons. Now you're 0.22 higher. That is pretty crazy. Yeah, fast fire ships are going to do a lot better versus galleons now. And as for the Karak, basically, all the stats increase, the attack speed is even faster, and also in Imperial Age, the movement speed is faster, so you are still outranged by, or still outsped by fast fire ships, but it is still fairly close. And other than that, it's basically everything that you would expect. All right, just for some quick Imperial Age testing, let's see how these guys perform. This is all post-imp, so full upgrades for both. Oh, yeah, these Karaks are doing work. Yeah, it looks like they're even more dominant with full upgrades against the fire ships. Yeah, that was very, very decisive. And a last test here with the galleons. Again, full upgrades. This still doesn't feel very impressive, especially because the guy making Karaks doesn't need to micro at all. Like, you just patrol in with them and you're good to go, whereas the guy making the galleons actually has to micro constantly. Which is, of course, going to matter a whole lot in late-game multitasking situations. Yeah, so, I don't know. The Karaks seem a little too good right now. That is for sure. All right, the last thing for this video that we do need to check out is the University. So if we look at the tech tree itself, you can see here that Shipwright is just here in the Imperial Age, Careening and Dry Dock, same deal. And then you have the new upgrades, Clinker Construction and Carville Hull here. So this is your movement speed boost just at the University. And then you have your interesting fire ship upgrades, which we will test in a moment. But note that, again, not every civ has access to all these upgrades. Like Aztecs, they no longer have Dry Dock, they don't have Carville Hull, they don't have either of the fire ship upgrades. Just, I don't know, randomly go to Chinese. No Incendiaries, no Carville Hull, but you have the other ones. Again, there's going to be no point in going through all of these, but it is still something that is worth considering. So yeah, all of the civilizations have their own set of upgrades at the university in relation to their dock tech tree. Now, the effects, of course, of Clinker Construction and Careening are very straightforward. They do exactly what you think they would do. I am kind of curious about Siphon. So fire ships gain an explosive charge attack. So 3 attack right now. We researched this. It's pretty cheap at the university. Now 2 times 6. And you can see there is that charge mechanic to it. And blast radius now. Does it work against buildings? No. Okay. So what does it do versus ships? Oh, okay. So you see that little boomy boom explosion. So it's like, do more damage, and it does a little bit of blast attack. Okay, that's reasonable enough. Now, Imperial Age, Dry Dock, Carville Hull, again, they do exactly what you would expect them to do. Ships are now super fast in Imperial Age. And then Incendiaries. Fire ships detonate when sunk, gaining blast radius. All right, get fast fire ship in as well. And let's see how good this is. All right, so I just have a bunch of galleons over here. Take down this fast fire ship. We'll see it. Okay, what exactly are we looking at when it comes to the blast radius? All right. Okay, so it blows up and does 15 damage with a pretty large area of effect. All right, so definitely you got to be careful when going up against fire ships because those explosions will definitely add up over time. Anyway, guys, that is going to be it for the reworked dock here in AoE2. I'm not sure when this is going to come to the the live version of the game. My guess would be Q1 of 2026. But yeah, I am really interested to see how these changes play out. Let me know in the comments what you think of them for sure. And of course, shout out to my Patreon supporters with Dan and Jared in the Great Wolf tier, and then Liquid Egg Product, Carolyn, Tanduri, Rairu, and Dieter in the Dire Wolf tier. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.